Hello everyone, this is the eFly F80. This is a little tiny Whoop-like machine. Classic features and canopy and props and size. It comes with this little tiny peanut shaped controller. It's very basic. There are no buttons across the top. You can possibly see the black shading where buttons could go, or maybe they've cut out for other models. It does take two AA or AAA, batteries. See there, I got some cheapos in there. We've already got a camera installed. A couple things to highlight before we fly it. It has a 200 milliamp battery. You can't quite see the 200 on there. There we go, 200 milliamp battery. And it does have that older style PH 1.0 connector. This is the smaller connector. So if you want to get more batteries, it's kind of like the Tiny Whoop, classic Tiny Whoop batteries. They put a red dot on the battery end as well as the battery lead, so it's easy to match up and get plugged in. Our camera has a little bit of up tilt to it, I would say maybe 10 degrees. And then we've got the antenna out back here, it's kind of rubberized. And right there, I don't know if this is going to come through on camera, that is a button to change your channel for your FPV. Of course, I'm going to be doing line of sight first. This is going to be kind of difficult. I've flown this a few times already. Flips and rolls are performed via a down press of this right stick, and then you give it direction. So that's going to limit our ability to do forward flight flips and rolls because you've got to have the stick centered in order to activate that. And then you can change rates. It has two rates with the down press of the left stick. That design itself I'm not crazy about, but it is what it is. Probably one of the most interesting features about this is that it touts itself as being compatible with FlySky I-Series remotes, which I do have and I will be testing. I failed to mention that button, you shouldn't be able to really hit that button in most circumstances on a crash or anything if you're FPV, because you might be able to see it's got two little humps across the top which protect that button from being struck by a surface. It would have to fit between there and hit that little tab just right. So the chances are low you're going to change your channel while you're performing FPV. Also, you might be able to see through the canopy there's a connector right here, and that is for your FPV camera. So if you needed to change that out, you just have a connector. You wouldn't have to necessarily do any soldering. There is a little mount inside with a screw that keeps the camera in the canopy. It's not just loosely hanging there and it's not glued in. The blue wire here is your control link antenna. If you have range issues, you might be able to poke a hole in the canopy and bring that out. That could help a little bit. You can also do the same with the controller. We've seen that time and time again, where if you do have control link range issues, just getting the antenna outside of the plastic can help. So I'm going to plug it in. As typical with most of these toy grade quads, you power this on, throttle up, throttle down, and it binds itself. It's also worth noting that with the FlySky I-Series, they say channel 5 is where you select your different rates for your remote, so you get the left stick down press feature. Channel 6 would be your flips and rolls, which, you know, is going to be kind of hard because you have to flip a switch on that FlySky remote in order to get it into the flipping or rolling mode and give it a direction on your stick and then flip out of it to continue your flight path. So, but it can be done, which is kind of interesting. All right, I'm going to set it down. We're going to give it a little line of sight flight. Okay, we're bound up. Something else that I've learned about this is the instructions do not have a accelerometer calibration to where you do the stick movements. So I haven't found what that trick is yet. But I have found that if you plug it in, you put it on a flat surface before you bind the radio, it tends to minimize that drift that you get to where you have to trim it out a lot. So I would encourage you to plug it in, set it down right away, kind of let it set, and then turn your radio on. But you can see we're ready to go here. Let's give it a little shot. This is going to be ugly. I'm not great with these little tiny remotes. So you can see I'm drifting forward, kind of heavy still. So I'm going to see if I can't get this to trim back. Oh, geez. So I'm going to press this down button in the middle to trim it back. Oops, hit the throttle. The drift was pretty severe. You could actually see the angle on the quad. Let's see what we got now. It's still drifting forward a touch, but not nearly as bad as it was. So let's look at our angle here. So in the default low rate, you get some pretty severe angle. It really can move around. Pitches seems to be about the same. Oops. And then we'll see if we can get it balanced out here, and then we'll do a little yaw spin. Yaw is pretty slow, but that might work fine. Sometimes you don't need nearly as much yaw. So let's see what we got. I'm not going full stick because I just don't have a lot of space here. Oh, let's bring it back here to center, and we'll do a couple of full throttle, low throttle punches and catches. Bring it back here a little closer. Full throttle. Oh, it tapped it all the way down. So it gives you an idea what sort of thrust, the sort of motors and props, how they perform in there. Also, let's take a look at the flip function and the roll function here. Let me bring it back a bit. It's still wanting to drift forward quite a bit. Well, I didn't get it pressed there. I'm still not getting it pressed. That makes it tricky. It's hard to get it to trigger that on this downward pressing. Hopefully I can get it to do it at least once while we're filming here. Well, and it doesn't beep to we already got LVC. We didn't even get to see it flip. So now it won't flip because of LVC. There, it did it. That was terrible timing, but it did it. So I was wrong. Now we got a lot of drift to the left. See if I can make that happen one more time. It actually does beep, but it's very faint. Yeah, that was too high. Okay, let me reset. We'll try that again. These batteries on these oftentimes aren't very good performers, so that's something to consider. Doing a little bit more trimming. See, it went all the way to the ground, so you're going to have to give it some. Now it won't flip anymore. Oh, it did actually. Jeez, well, Pete. Great flight demonstration, right? Well, yeah, we're just about full throttle now. Yeah, there's not much juice left. Well, that was pretty brief. Yeah. Rango's little friend. Let's see if we can get it to scoot along the floor. Ah, shoot. Well, that's a little bit of a sampled flight. Sorry, I wish I could have done better with the flip function because we didn't get to fly it around so much. But we got a small sample into the angle that it will give you in flight with pitch and roll. We also got to see the yaw. The flip function doesn't work very well. So when I FPV it, I doubt I'll test that just because it's going to end up bouncing off the ground with all the furniture in the house. Probably end up having to do the walk of shame and go fetch it. You can see the lights here. Green light there off the camera, and then we've got flashing white and red from the bottom in the front and the rear, so that would help you with line of sight flying. I'm going to bind it up to that FlySky i6 I have, and we'll give it a go that way.
Taking off from the island, and one of the things that is pretty easy to note, but I want to draw your attention to it, is the camera is actually pretty clear, and it's handling the different lights that come out of the windows, and we do have a fair number of LED lights in the house. You'll see some cascading light effect, but it's not terrible. I've seen much worse. So they have a pretty good all-in-one camera in this machine. You can see the thrust is not great, but you probably also notice that in the line of sight. I am flying with the FlySky remote, the i6S, and it does give you much finer controls than you will get on the typical remote that it comes with. It's real small. This machine does come in several different colors, and oddly enough, depending upon the color, the price is different. It ranges from the yellow one, I think is the cheapest one at the moment, for $34.99, and then the most expensive ones looks like it's the red and the blue, coming in at $49. So that's something to consider. It seems like the price might be a bit high, but if you add an FPV camera to something else, you're probably going to end up spending somewhere close to $20 to add the camera. You can definitely improve the performance of this by upgrading the motors. You can get motors from Micro Motor Warehouse, Ready Made RC, tinywhoop.com. There's all sorts of different quad shops online that offer different brushed motors that will be able to increase the performance quite a bit. It is a nice feature to be able to fly with this hobby grade remote. It's actually a lot easier for me to fly with the hobby grade remote. That's what I'm used to. It's what I normally fly with. 95% of the time I tend to only use these smaller remotes that come with these machines for reviews, but it flies pretty well. It's pretty even. It's not going to be fast out of the box, but if you're a starter, you're probably better served by not having something that's really powerful and fast, because you'll have difficulties with your throttle control. You'll end up going up and down, up and down, up and down, because the throttle will be so super sensitive, whereas you can stay pretty even with the throttle on this and you won't notice much difference. Tried to shoot through the kitchen table chairs and didn't quite make that, but it's always fun to do those close proximity things. I think I turn around and try to hit my lamp gap here, which we do with success, and next we go over to the coffee table. And this is really where these things excel. They have prop guards on them. You can fly them inside. They're very, very light. They're very, very safe. You don't really have to worry about hurting anyone. Do stay away from people with long hair, because hair does get spun up in those motors quite easily, and it can be difficult to get out. I know that firsthand from the two girls that I have. It's also worth noting that the 32 channels you get for video transmission performance is Fat Shark, Race Band, Band E, and Band A. Unfortunately, that's the end of our battery. And a little proof of concept here with the FlySky remote to show you that it does work. In order to set that up, you need to make sure you have the AF HDS 2A, which is the protocol, on. You also need to turn PPM on. That's how I was able to successfully get it bound, and that's how I flew it in this video. If you have any questions about that machine, please leave it down in the comments below. I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.